Hello, everybody. Welcome to Funding Flipside. My name is Barb Dunn, and I'm here with my partner, Nikki Sasser, and our special guest, Aaron Kim. Hello, Aaron.
Hi, ladies.
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
Aaron,
Good.
glad to have you on here.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
So let's get to know you. Tell us, how did you get started in transactional lending, and what led you there? And briefly, just write it down for us. Tell us.
Sure. Well, I started in real estate back in 2008, 2009 when the first crash happened, and my first rental property fell into my lap. And I've been super blessed. I was able to kind of grow a portfolio of long-term rentals. And then I worked with the federal government for a while. And then after that, I got out and was helping my family business for a while. I had started some separate businesses, sold them, and then my parents decided to retire. And so we sold just about everything, right? Like 18 months before COVID. And so after that, we were sitting on some capital, and we were always dabbling in real estate. My parents had rentals, my sister had rentals, and I had that one that I started out with, and it started to grow. And so I knew, doing quick math, I knew that I needed to make at least 10% on my money because I didn't want it just sitting in the bank. And so I started researching. I always knew I wanted to get in some sort of private um, lending or transactional funding just because it was a fast turnaround and I knew it was pretty secure. And so once that had dawned on me, I start researching. And once you start researching, Paige shows up, all the deans, Chris Crohn's, all the, you know, you know, the big wigs come out and enter my feed, right? And so then I stumbled upon a Gator method. And so I said, this is a good platform. I like this. And so I kind of molded that method and that business model to kind of suit me a little bit better. And then, and at the end of like 22, early 23, I joined when it was pretty new. And then, off to the races. I had to figure out what I was doing.
Wow, that's really similar to my scenario. We had long-term rentals since 30 years ago, and I didn't do anything with them, just kind of mailbox money. And then I sold one, had all this capital, and saw Gator and thought, oh, that's a really cool concept. And wouldn't this be great? And that's how I started. That's really funny. Huh. But my thing's a family. My kids all own properties, and it's fun to have it all in the family.
Yeah, absolutely. But no one ever told me it was going to be this hard. Real estate's difficult, right? It's never as passive as people make it out to be, but transactional funding is not easy. It's way more involved than I thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah. What do you typically lend on? Are they just strictly fix and flips, or are they commercial properties, or it's kind of the gamut?
It's a gamut. So I only do escrow protected transactions, meaning transactions like double closings or like assignment of like earnest money deals, right? Or carrybacks where I'm getting paid at the close of escrow, or in sort of like a stack method or a mortgage method, the second close of escrow, I'll get paid. So any scenario where I can get paid at the close of escrow and the funds never leave escrow and I have a good amount of control over it, those are the type of transactions I love to fund.
Great.
Aaron, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you had a business with you grew up working in your father's business. I think you said that, or maybe I heard that on another podcast. We didn't send this question to you, but I'd like to ask you, what life lessons did you learn from that experience of working there?
So very
that you're applying now, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an awesome question. So my family had a line of restaurants and grocery stores and stuff like that. So we were in the food industry from day one. So it really taught me how to be prepared, like how to prep correctly, whatever it may be, whether it be a catering event or prepping for the next day or prepping to interview new employees. So lots of prep. Number two, just hard work, because like restaurant hours are really tough, right? I would get up at 3 a.m, drop my kids off at my mom's, and then I would drive into work, and it would take me about an hour to get in there. And then I would hop from restaurant to restaurant to make sure everything was going okay. There were days where I had to be the line cook, or I had to be the cashier, or I had to be the bad guy and let someone go, right? So it was that. And the third lesson, really important, is it taught me how to be really detail oriented, which is not my natural personality. Believe it or not, I was a super easygoing, happy go lucky, not a care in the world, free spirit. But as I've gotten older, I've learned to really learn those skills and put them to use.
That's really awesome that you were able to learn that at a young age as well. And PR skill, I mean, you were working with the public,
Yeah.
which was awesome, right? You had that opportunity to mingle with the public and learn how to kind of work with different personalities, I guess I would say, right? In the restaurant world.
Yeah, absolutely. So soft skills. So when I was younger, I was a good writer. But my soft skills with interacting people wasn't great. But when I started, interacting with hundreds, maybe thousands of people a day, like you said, all sorts of different, personalities and different capacities, right? I had employees, I had customers, I had different merchants, I had vendors, right? So it was good for me. I really think most kids should work in the service industry at least for a little bit to really learn those kind of skills.
Yes.
Agree.
I
Agree
do
100%.
agree.
And you don't
Yeah.
see that, I mean, very often nowadays. I mean, here or there, but more kids are not doing what you did, right? So that's really great. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Barb, I'll let you ask the next questions.
Oh, I wanted to ask, how do you structure your contracts to minimize risk? And what disclosures do you use, and kind of the nitty gritty of transactions? How do you protect yourself?
Sure. So in my business, I always like to build layers of security, right? That's the name of the game. For me, as far as contracts go, it really starts with all the questions and the homework I do before the documents start. And so it's all about the vetting of the borrower, the title company, and making sure that my intake form does all the heavy lifting for me. And so I'm in a typical double close, I'm gonna want the A to B contract. I want the the B to C contract. I want, if the back end is being financed, I want that term sheet. Okay, before I wire or schedule any wires, I want a clear to close from title, and I vet the title company. I get all the LLC information and background information on the borrowers. And one of the major things that I do is I make sure 100% of the funds are are in escrow, including earnest money and the acquisition funds and closing costs on the back end before I even think about scheduling a wire on the front end. And so some of the disclosures that I use is the if and only ifs. So I have a whole different section on, if there's an extension that needs to be made, I need to approve it, and it needs to be filed before the expiration of the contract. If they move title companies, they need my written permission to move title companies. None of the terms of the contract can be changed in my, without my consent and written authority. And all those little things like that really help, really secure my funds in the deal, and it really teaches the borrower that I'm serious and that I can execute as long as they do their part.
Nice, great answer. Wow. So you may have said this, but do you send the contracts and everything to title prior to see if they can work with you, or you may have said
So
this?
yes, if it's a new title company, what I usually do is I usually have a template. Now every scenario is different, so it changes obviously. But for each type of transaction, I vet the title company, and part of the process is what type of transactions do you facilitate? What's the bulk of your transactions? Are you comfortable with this transaction? and say, okay, well, if you have a legal team, and they usually do, or if there's a closing attorney, I send them my documents ahead of time and I ask them, hey, this is what I intend on doing. These are my documents. If there's any modifications or verbiage changes that you need, please let me know, so it doesn't come up at the 11th hour on closing date.
Right.
Yeah.
So speed is essential. So what's the best way to do that? Is it email or talk on the phone, or what is the transaction? I mean, not transaction, but the communication. How is it, email, or what's best?
Yeah, so I always liked at minimum, I get it in like written form, right? I always get it in writing, but I do like to make phone calls as well, just because I like to double and triple check. And so there's a list of questions that I ask in that due diligence or that vetting phase, and I do ask them after the initial conversation, and we agree that we're going to move forward and everything, and that they like my documents, whatever. I do ask them how they would like to be communicated with. Like, do you prefer a phone call? Do you prefer, a phone call on a certain day at a certain time? Do you prefer an email and then a follow-up phone call, or vice versa? So I always give them the option so I make it easy to communicate with me to their preferred, way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I never thought of, asking what their window is. That's really smart. More
Because
likely
most
to
times,
respond.
yeah, so the hardest thing about, actually, besides like deal flow and everything else, the hardest thing is allocating your funds from one deal to another. And so you need to put in like a grace period for yourself, a buffer before and after transactions. And if the title company doesn't respond to you right away, or has an issue and doesn't communicate it right away, then that just delays everything. And so that would cause like a domino effect on all the other transactions I have set up. So,
Yeah.
it's important to really be able to have good rapport with either the closing agent, the escrow agent, or the closing attorney, or whoever's assisting them. So there's no delay, right? So that's the thing. So transactional funding, all about how fast can you deploy funds and how fast can you vet everybody out.
Well, I'm just fast forwarding to our scenario, and wouldn't it be great to be to that point where it's just a well-oiled machine? That's enticing. I'm kind of excited about that. I mean, we've got some learning curves, but boy, it sure would be nice, to be at that point. Wow, very impressive.
Very.
Well, I think I still have so much growing to do, and I think I can make so many improvements to my process. But it did take like 6 to 8 months for me to really understand, and trial and error, and understanding how to market myself, and then countless hours with attorneys and getting documents revised and reviewed, and thousands of dollars later, right, to really understand and buy their time.
Yeah,
and that's so awesome what you've shared with us. Every time when you were talking, I kept thinking of what a great asset we have in our community, and that's you. Somebody who is crystal clear on communication. Anyway, that's my perception of you, is that, and you used that earlier on in this conversation about communicating and with people, like whether it's in title or wherever, the borrower. I know that's really important, but you bring such value to the community because of your communication and how crystal clear you are on this is how it needs to be done. Tell us what brought you to that part. That's not a question we asked, but tell us a part where you found that communication is so vitally important in the real estate world, but also in your transactional funding.
So, fun fact: I'm a control freak. So it's really it's really a.
I would have never guessed that. Really? Wow!
We're glad you're normal.
So
that's
it's
fascinating.
Yeah, it's funny, right? But I really do think it's a byproduct of me wanting to have control over the situation, and for me to understand both, all parties and all the perspectives. I need to be able to communicate where I stand so I can kind of see where everything else fits in. And I think that's where it really came from. And I've always learned that words are important, but what people don't say is even more important. So I've been good about teaching myself to hyper focus about reading between the lines and being careful with my words.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And you are so good at that. Like, you are somebody that I know we can turn to and ask questions to, and you're very precise, right? Or did you do this? Did you ask this? Did you do this? So thank you for being
Yes.
a wealth of knowledge in the community. And you've kind of been a hidden gem for a while. And so we're grateful that you are available to so many people to help. I do have a question for you. Where do you see your business in 5 years?
That's a good question. I think it wouldn't be too different from what it is right now. I'm in a position, I'm really blessed. I don't have to do transactions. And so because of my portfolio of long-term rentals, and so I think in the future, my business might turn into more speaking engagements and maybe like workshops, maybe even masterminds with different people. I think that's the evolution that I'm kind of working towards now. But as far as transactions go, I think I'm going to still be picky. I'm not looking to really scale. I may do larger transactions, but that would be the only difference than what I'm doing now.
That's
Nice.
awesome. That is
That-
great. Let us know when you have those masterminds going. We'll make sure we spread the word.
Yeah, it seems like a really logical transition for you, actually. I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Good for you.
It's exciting, but it's scary for me because I have been kind of under the radar a lot. I don't like being in front of a camera, but I do like interacting with people. And so, it does scare me a bit, knowing that I have to put myself out there and maybe, start a podcast or do more podcast appearances. And so, it's taming of the anxiety at this point that is shackled.
It'll go well. A little tidbit for you. I had a Facebook page. For 8 years? I posted one thing, and here I am doing all this. So if I can do this, you can definitely do this, because this is not my comfort level at all. So it's amazing, and I enjoy this. I like getting to know people. It's great.
Yeah, I agree with what Barb said. And you're giving people hope out there, Erin, because you just said the word anxiety, which I think a lot of us have with social media or being on camera. I hate it. But you're giving people hope to put themselves out there and to kind of get outside of ourselves, right? And to allow ourselves to grow and excel. Or to elevate, whatever word you want to use in that area. But I feel like that is an opportunity for us to get out of the way of ourselves and to help others. So that's fantastic.
And I'm available to help you set up StreamYard or whatever you need from us to get you going. So just let us know.
Thank you. I would love that.
Yeah. And so how should people get in touch with you? What's
They
preference?
they can find me on Facebook at Aaron Kim, or I don't post a lot, but I am on Instagram at Double Close King, and so you can find me there. Or you can, I have a link card with my email and stuff on it. You can reach me at ackventureholdings@gmail.com.
Great.
Awesome. That's great to know. So, Erin, one last question for you. If there was somebody new that joined our community or somebody new that you had met, what advice would you give to them as somebody new starting out?
So in the transactional funding space, or just in general?
Maybe do both if you can. If you can't, maybe stick to whatever feels most comfortable to you.
Sure. So I would say start with the three questions that I ask everybody. It's what your skill set is, what your resources are, and then what your risk tolerance is. And that leads to three different buckets. So the first bucket would be to identify yourself. What's your buy box? What's your lend box? What's your funding box? So what service or loan product or whatever else are you presenting? Are you offering? And be crystal clear on that. And then that in turn pours into the next bucket, which is your ideal clientele. And so be very specific, right? Like, who are they? Do they have a family? Where do they live? What kind of transactions do they do? How are they going to help you, with your business? How much profit are they going to make you every year? Right. So be like, I even give them a name, right? I get this imaginary ideal client. And now I have a few, um, it's funny. But after that, it kind of pours into the third bucket, which is intentional marketing, which is now that you know what you're doing and who you're going to do business with, now you can go find those people, right? And so really gearing your efforts into get in front of those specific people. So those are probably the general things that I would tell folks to do if they're getting into, real estate in this capacity. Now, transactional funding, a little bit different. I would say yes to all those things that I just mentioned, but to keep making your lists. Have your lists of like hard money lenders, private money lenders, capital heavy gators, or gators that are new, or sub two folks, mortgage brokers, loan officers, title companies, right? All these people, different lists, so you can kind of leverage your relationships to get into deals or to provide value to a transaction. And so in the beginning, you're not going to be able to charge folks, right? But after a while, people kind of understand, oh, I can go to Aaron. He has these lists of people. He has, they're usually vetted out. So I'm going to go to him for this information. Oh, by the way, do you have, I know, 70K to help with this deal? Right now people are coming to you with all these deals, right? And I think that is a good place to start, as well as having some sort of way to organize yourself. It doesn't have to be a sophisticated, expensive CRM, right? A customer relationship management, software program, right? You don't need, I still use spreadsheets and Google Sheets, as well as, other stuff at this point. But, Abraham Gray does it with spreadsheets. He still uses them. So it doesn't have to be sophisticated, but some way to just organize yourself, to keep track of the people that you meet, that you're trying to meet, phone numbers, contact information, something personal about them. And I think those are really good starting points for anyone trying to get into the business.
Well, I'm enjoying listening to you talk. Everything you just mentioned is a perfect mastermind. I think you have your content. You're going to rewatch this and see, there you go. You've got it all laid out. Then I would definitely come to learn more. Yeah. My gosh.
Yeah. And so Barb and Nikki, you will be on the poster while my face won't be on there, and you will be much more attractive than me. So I'm all for it.
Like, oh, I don't know about that. You've got $1 million smile right there. It's just great.
Definitely. Wow.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has just been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And you know what? That was like golden nuggets that you just shared. Like, I don't know what more information you could find besides in that 1-2 minutes that you just shared, 3 minutes. That was incredible information for anybody starting out new. And you are, like I said earlier, just a wonderful person to be involved with in the community, and somebody who has those golden nuggets that we don't know. A lot of them don't know about, right? So
not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's in the works. It's in the works.
It's in the works. Yeah. Oh, great.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you being on here and for all that you do in the community.
Yes. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Have a great day, Aaron. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.